Yuri, I got bad news. Last attack was not authorized in the retreat, so we have all been demoted. On the plus side, we are now attacking in direction of less German tanks, which, you know, that works out. Hopefully Company Dog doesn't get demoted like the rest of us. So we lost a lot of tanks in the last Batrep. That's not uncommon for me, but this is the Soviet industry. We're just going to build more and keep chugging them at the problem until Conf Group Bake gets off the objective. And hopefully that will work out, and hopefully we will kill a few more this time than we did the last time. Today's mission is a recock of the same board as last time, playing no retreat as the defender places 2 objectives on the board, and in this case the defender has to be Conf Group Baka because they are facing the Soviet Tankovy from Red Bear, which always attacks in a defensive battle. As we alternate placing units, he throws his Tigers in a position that allows him to dispatch left or right to either objective that I go for. I throw the Su-100s on the hill on the north, and then I throw the gaggle of tanks down the road because I'm going to spread out just a little bit and then just horde my way down. I also throw the Spetsnaz really wide so that I can swing one way or the other because he was very aware that I was going to try to infiltrate in one direction or the other. And if he sees where I place my Spetsnaz, he'll just place all his independent characters in the area so that I can't get forward without having to make a bunch of rolls. But I ended up doing it anyway because a bunch of the tanks from the short group of T-34s got stuck in the woods as they were infiltrating forward and otherwise put themselves in an advantageous position well forward of the rest of the Soviet body. The infiltration isn't caught, so I go ahead and start rushing everything forward on the first turn, because I get the first turn when the infiltration isn't caught, and he only has Baka himself over there in the woods holding the entire left flank. Now the left flank is a little bit further away from the objective, but I'm not going to give him the option to place the Panthers on the other side, so he immediately does. I pop a few rounds at Baka, wasn't able to do anything. He pops his ambush, and then he turns the Panthers around and just starts lighting up the T-34s that didn't bog out in the woods, and make them reconsider why they fixed the tracks and their buddies didn't. They even managed to light up one of the Su-100s on the hill, which is kind of, you know, regrettable considering they have such a great front armor, but they managed to lose it anyway in a long-range fire from the Panthers. Spetsnaz moves forward, gets into the building where I promptly forget about them. The commander passes his morale check for the short group of T-34s and doubles it across the board behind the woods. We're going to go for the southern objective and try to get those those Panthers to reconsider where they are and at least back off the objective as the horde of T-34 start crashing up the roads and through the village trying to get to the eastern objective where there's only 2 Tigers holding on to the entire position. The German position is actually quite untenable at the moment. The Panthers have to choose between lighting up the gaggle of target setters in front of them, because they have quite a selection to pick from, or backing off and protecting the southern objective. Thankfully though, my buddy here, he gets his reserve roll, and the Nebelwerfers roll onto the board, taking their Pack 40 with them, and they light up the short group's command unit. Even though one of the tanks unbogged and moved forward through the woods on the left side of the board, they're going to end up being stuck there forever because there's no command element out there to recover them. Air support does come in, manages to pick a juicy set of targets out there as the T-34s horde forward. He manages to do quite a bit of damage to them, but not before we make our presence felt as he starts moving forward to make sure that he is in contention of the objective that I am most certainly about to take it, either from the T-34s or the Su-122s, sneaking it up like some sort of Russian ninja on the right side of the board. Panthers no longer have to really consider about moving, so they stand and fire, managing to light up every T-34 that they can see. And that tends to happen when just about every shot goes straight to firepower. Nearly everything gets bailed or set on fire, and it really gives a little bit of concern for the unit, but it's a 10-strong Tankovy company, and they're not really going to feel the effects of it, especially when the CIC is just hankering right behind the front lines, making sure they keep moving forward. My buddy's Pack 40 here is actually beautiful. It looks like a piece of scenery, and unfortunately, on more than one occasion against him, the thing just blends into the scenery and you forget about it. Much to my dismay. But we have one single-minded objective here. We're going to keep pushing forward. He doesn't have a whole lot of shots to put down range, and as I can attest to you with every heavy tank list I've ever ran, overrunning the position is what you need to do as the Soviet player. And that's exactly what I do. I throw the T-34s forward as far as I can, turn them around, and start lighting up the Tiger that is holding on to the objective, managing to bail it not once but twice. Even the Su-122, the commander, who I didn't realize was the commander for the second time in a row, pulls out there and decides to get a little bit of bloodlust, hitting the Tiger but failing to penetrate. I'm going to have to correct that and keep the command units from entering combat. That just seems like a rather rash, bloodlusted move. Panthers double bout. They have to provide as much fire support against those T-34s on the right side of the board because he is about to lose the game. Sooner or later, those T-34-85s will puncture the armor of just those two little Tigers, and he starts lighting up with the Panthers at range. And again, this is kind of a problem that you have with any tank of it, that you don't have to worry about your armor stopping anything because it's just not. It's just going to go through it like tinfoil. And as he does, he throws the Recce group, which came in out of reserves, and throws them up to the objective, trying to hold on just for a little while his tanks start lighting up the T-34s. It's a play for time. I've got a lot of tanks to lose, and I've got to lose them just slow enough that I can get him off the objective for one turn, because that's the game that Flames of War plays. Su-100s try to cross the hedgerow. We're trying to make sure that those Panthers stick behind the hill, but they end up bogging on the hedges. Now, only one of them, the commander, manages to not get his tank stuck. Once we make the bog rolls, I decide it's better to send him back there behind the cover at the very least and help get his buddies out before we move forward again. Again, the way I'm thinking is the name of the game is aggression. I want to try to dictate the pace of the game instead of letting him dictate the pace of mine. The one Tiger that is holding near the objective has been bailed multiple times. Every turn I'm slamming round after round after round in him as he's slamming round after round into the surviving T-34s, and I just can't quite put him down. He's making every armor save round after round after round. Even the Nebelwerfers finally set up and start laying rounds down in the town center against the T-34s that just refuse to die. Now, my buddy even admits that his dice were hot. Every shot off of those T-34-85s was just bouncing off of the deflector shield on that Tiger, even though it's been mostly inoperable, being bailed out for the entire game. Nonetheless, I grin and bear it, move the Su-100s forward, again dictating the pace of the game by getting aggressive, and I fire the T-34-85s again at the Tiger and manages to finally take it out, giving the Soviets first blood and taking out the AT asset, keeping the Recce unit alive. I move the CIC forward, since if you gotta get something done, you better do it yourself. They assault the Recce team. The Recce team fails tank terror, even though I managed to not kill anything, and they kick their bikes out, falling back, but just barely keeping themselves in contention of the objective. The Soviets have the objective. The impetus is now on the Germans to do something, anything, to be able to push the Russians back off. He gets air support. He sends them after the Su-100s that are making themselves very efficiently felt against the Panthers as they now swing wide, trying to avoid the deadly gaze of that AT-16 rate of fire one gun. And as they do, they swing around, start leveling their guns at the now cavalcade of destroyed T-34s that are more fuming wreckage than working tanks at this point, and start making their presence felt. Even the Nebelwerfers, desperate to get the CIC off the objective, manages to hit one of the Su-122s, the CIC, and his own infantry, pinning them in the effect. Panthers reconsider their position, realize they're just forward enough that I can send a bunch of the surviving T-34-85s out there into flank shots, and he decides to go ahead and go for it anyway. Just risking the Su-122, giving him a couple shots, and realizing that it's probably nowhere near as scary as the T-34-85. As air support successfully bailed one of the Su-100s, I go ahead and move the commander forward. He hasn't had a problem in the entire game and decides to go ahead and move forward up onto the hedgerow to try to again keep the Panthers hiding behind cover, because that AT-16 shot is going to go right through him like a hot knife through butter. CIC Assaults again, this time with the Su-122s, and they push the Recce group off the objective. They fail morale, rout off the board, and give the objective to the Russians. We now have it uncontested, and the ball is completely in the German court to do something. He throws the Panthers forward, trying to make a last-bit gambit to try to hold on to the game. And as the Panthers rush forward through the high croplands, they begin engaging the Soviet Unions at incredibly close ranges. This is down to the wire. I grouped the CIC with the Su-122 group. It doesn't save him as he manages to just bail the Su-22 but kill the CIC. Pak-40 from downtown fires way long range, because I forgot, because he looked like a piece of terrain, and destroys the Su-100s, causing them to rout off the table. The Su-122s rout off the table. There's no CIC. It ends up being a company rout. And that's been an Ouchies Batrep. And thanks for watching. Again, this is one of those issues where I probably should have gotten a little bit more aggressive, but I'm thinking that I'm going to take dead off in future lists.